Last year, our claim to being Zip State was over in about 3/4. Now we got a quarterback room full of dudes who can absolutely grip it, rip it, and zip it like a 103-mile-an-hour Carson Bench fastball from the outfield.
You are Locked On Oklahoma State, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma State Cowboys, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Oklahoma State, your top stop for all things Cowboy and Cowgirl related. My name is Cody Stillwater. I want to thank you kindly for swinging on through to make this your first listen. Today, we're brought to you by Kalshi. For a limited time, go download the Kalshi app and use the code LOCKEDON to get $10 when you trade on $10 with Kalshi. Meanwhile, we get to slide right into this quarterback conversation. Last year, Haas Haney goes down, 3/4 into the season. He had a pretty good cannon to go along with those remarkable wheels. And then the Zip State conversation died out rather quickly. This is not the case. If you've seen some of the videos circulating right now, Brodie Vehrs might have an absolutely illegal howitzer attached to his arm. Likewise, Grant Jordan, who's going to be a very valuable commodity, not only in the locker room, but on the sidelines and on the field, because he's already got a lot of college success. He's already got a lot of college snaps. Then Brodie Vehrs, without injury in high school, he would have been a hot commodity because he was getting attention from the Arizona States and the Utahs of the world before that shoulder injury that put him out for the remainder of his senior season. So his senior year, he only really got to throw for like 1,500 yards before that injury popped up. Now, thankfully, he still put up a ton of stats. Grant Jordan, he is going to lead the way a little bit, at least for now, because of some of the things he does have going in his favor, one of them being that seniority. Having stops at both Yale and UMass, you know the cerebral side of the game is probably going to be absolutely fine for him. But he did put up almost 2,600 yards, 25 touchdowns, 63.8% completion percentage to go alongside almost 450 yards rushing and 7 touchdowns. So he does have that dual threat capability that should be able to allow him to extend the time, get out of the pocket, make some things a little interesting. It'll be kind of fun to see if either one of these individuals can do what Drew Mestemaker did last year, even if it's in small, minuscule moments against like a Murray State. But last year, Drew Mestemaker averaged over 5 yards per carry on design runs and over 10.8 yards per carry on scramble drills that got outside of the packet and outside of the passing tree. Will Brodie Vehrs or Grant Jordan been able to replicate that? I would think so, because they're both, I think, a little bit better of a runner than Drew Mestemaker. Maybe not a crap ton, but Brodie Vehrs, he had almost 530 yards and 6 touchdowns rushing to go alongside his 4,447 passing yards and 45 touchdowns to, you ready for this? Only 5 picks at 71.8% completion percentage. Athletically, I think a lot of us could easily see that Brodie Vehrs was going to be somebody that was going to compete for an opportunity. But I think a lot of us, or at least me, viewed him as a dual threat guy that was going to have to use his wheels more often than not in the beginning of his career at Oklahoma State, especially if he were to be thrust into a game scenario this upcoming season. However, it's not just the athleticism that is starting to pop off for Brodie Vehrs. There's a continuous conversation about having that quarterback 2 battle for a reason. And those videos that are circulating show that Brodie Vehrs has a cannon. And Brandon Weeden was even talking recently in regards to being at practice that all of the quarterbacks that he was visibly able to see only for a day or two, so a little bit of a small sample size, they could all absolutely throw lasers. He said he has never really seen that at Oklahoma State. You always have 2 guys that can absolutely rip it. Sometimes you'll have 3 guys that can absolutely put some zip on the ball that makes it a rare occasion to not see that level of zip. But Brandon Weeden said that this was one of the few times, if the only time, maybe the only time, he's seen all of the quarterbacks throw with such a level of pace that it was impossible for him not to feel the juice, not only on the defense side of the ball, but obviously with the quarterback room as well. For him to exude that level of confidence should give us confidence as a fan base that even though obviously it would be very detrimental to the success of the team for Drew Mestemaker to go down, it still may be bowl game hunting simply because of that continuity that Grant Jordan's going to have and the versatility that Brodie Vehrs is going to have and the arm talent. Evidently, they can almost all make all of the throws. Evidently, they can almost all find themselves in a position that if they were to need to get thrust into the ball game and they needed to grip the pigskin and let that daggone thing fly, they can all do that. I think this is further evidentiary proof that Eric Morris is a rare commodity. He is the new quarterback whisperer, the new quarterback guru, if you will. That title could be with Lincoln Riley, maybe for now. But if you do see another elevation in Drew Mestemaker this upcoming season, I think it really does kind of put some of those concerns to bed. Not that it was overly concerning to begin with, but last year we all watched it. Everybody was pretty excited for the Haas Haney show, and the beginning of the Haas Haney show was almost everything that we had thought it was going to be. It was as advertised, but unfortunately, he didn't even get to finish the ball game before we had to find another system. We had to find another way, and we ended up going with Zane Flores. And I just kind of feel like with some of the other injuries, like Oscar Hammond going down, you remove some of those security blanket opportunities while Zane Flores is still kind of learning the ins and outs of the offense, while also trying to understand the pace of play and understand how to layer balls a little bit better. You've got to have a little bit of touch. You got to have a little bit of that zip component. Maybe last year we had some touch, but we didn't have enough zip at all. To see these quarterbacks lined up in a row and they all get to just absolutely throw laser beams, it has to have all of us excited about the potential, obviously, for Drew Mestemaker, but even bigger than that, if you do have an injury, like we unfortunately experienced last season, seeing that drop off was so heartbreaking, demoralizing, that surely Eric Morris, Raj Murdy, Sean Brophy, and company saw what Oklahoma State went through last year and wholeheartedly understood that was the assignment. The assignment this year was to make sure that the backup quarterback position in Stillwater didn't look identical to last year or even a lot like last year at all. It'll be interesting to have conversations about, well, what if we would have been able to hang on to Milwaukee Smith? Who knows? But to know that Grant Jordan is a guy that some of the dudes believe could have started at Oklahoma State the last 3 or 4 years, for him to still be in this competition with Brodie Vehrs because of what you're seeing the clips of, it's not smoke and mirrors. It doesn't seem to be coach speak. Brodie Vehrs is legitimately pushing, which means that we could actually be in a position that's different than last year. We could finally be in a position that if we do have some catastrophic stuff pop up, that we've at least got a guy or two that can maybe slide in and get Oklahoma State to at least a bowl game. With Drew Mestemaker, you can be in that 8, 9, 10 win category, even if it's just for S's and giggles, and it still be kind of fun, but also somewhat realistic. If you go with a Brodie Vehrs or you go with a Grant Jordan, we should still be able to go to a bowl game. And that has to be viewed as a success, especially with the craziness we just unfortunately went through. Speaking of craziness, we got the heart and soul back, baby, but we've also got Kalshi. This is your time to jump in on the live market action and get the ultimate experience with Kalshi, where you can trade on the prediction markets and you can combo together a peer-to-peer whooping of capitalization. Before the season ever even gets going, all of us are making predictions. Who's going to win the Super Bowl? Who's going to win the division? Who's going to make the playoffs? On Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade those predictions in a live market. You know, I've had some fun with the Browns. I've had some fun with the Steelers. You're seeing the 49ers, and they've got a lot of difficulties keeping everybody on the field. Of course, they've got former Cowboy Nick Martin, who is making a big name for himself last year as we went through the preseason. This could be an opportunity for Nick Martin to climb up the depth chart. Not only is it going to be because he earned it, but with all of the injuries that the Niners have, it'd be nice to get like the ultimate capitalization moment. And right now, the ultimate capitalization for the 49ers would be at least win the NFC Championship game, right? And right now, it ain't looking all that great at only a 10% chance. But you throw in $100, and that trade could get you up to $1,044.57. So don't miss out on your opportunity to trade your way to the top. On Kalshi, you're going to be trading against your peers in a live market, so there's no house hooliganry. And as the probabilities change, you can buy in and out of your positions, trade the draft pick, the game, and more on Kalshi. Download the Kalshi app and use the code LOCKEDON, one word, to get $10 when you trade. $10. That is Kalshi. Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Even contract trading involves risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Kalshi products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see Kalshi.com/regulatory. Go see Kalshi today. Kalshi. Get your capitalization in on peer-to-peer trading. Ladies and gentlemen, he is back. Parsa Fallah has been part of this injunction that I guess now includes something along the lines of 30 players that should be able to immediately play this upcoming season. Of course, that's remarkable for all of us at Oklahoma State country. Last year, if Parsa Fallah doesn't get hurt, we are still in the thick of at least the first four in, first four out kind of NCAA tournament conversation, which would have felt like a win. It would have been a big win if the Cowboys wouldn't have been able to punch a ticket, even if it was just for the play-in game. But instead, we had to go the NIT route. Now, the beauty of that is the last couple games of the year, last few games of the year, that's when you saw a big-time emergence out of Kanye Clary, and then going into the NIT tournament, you did get to see that continuously carry over. But there was a stretch there after Parsa Fallah's injury where we were, first four in, first four out kind of bubble. And then the loss of Parsa was very, very visible, and we got kicked in the mouth a couple times right after that. But we were able to close the regular season strong because of the emergence with Kanye Clary. And seeing Mekhi Ragland step up and Ben Ahmed step up was massive for Steve Lutz to see that the buy-in within the roster was still there, at least to some certain individuals. This is something that could tip the scales dramatically. Like we've discussed before, Oklahoma State right now should be top 6, 7-ish, maybe top 8. Okay, so at least top half in the Big 12 without Parsa Fallah. Now that you have Parsa back, our expectations should climb a little bit more. Because while Parsa was going through that run, getting us into that NCAA tournament contention conversation, I think maybe we could have taken for granted what we had witnessed that year out of Parsa Fallah. And then off the court, he has been a remarkable ambassador for Stillwater, Oklahoma in general, let alone Oklahoma State. The fact that he has ingratiated himself with the community, with the campus, with the school, so much so that Steve Lutz has said for quite some time now, I'm going to leave a spot open, which could have backfired, right? If this injunction would have not gotten to go through and Parsa was still kind of sitting on the outside looking in without a lot of prospects to get more court time in Stillwater, Oklahoma this upcoming season, that would have been a hard pill to stomach, I think, for even somebody like a Steve Lutz. As much as we're allowed to be excited about the Latrell Almonds also coming in to go alongside Mekhi and Ahmed, this is a game changer. Like, there's a lot of teams around the country that are going to be recipients of something comparable to this. So there's now going to be a lot of fan bases that are very excited for basketball season to kind of come to fruition, because there's a lot of hopes in the Big 12. And in this conference, all you got to do is really finish top 8. And you're probably going to punch a ticket to the dance 9 times out of 10. It feels like this may have been that missing piece. It feels like we saw enough when they went overseas to get excited. But there was always going to be a component of, man, it'd be nice if we had Parsa. Because Andrija Grabovich, yes, he can play power forward. He could probably play, air bunny quotes, he could play the 5 spot if absolutely necessary. But he's more of a guy that can play on the perimeter, that can get in on fast breaks, that can be a good offensive threat, that can provide you some quality minutes defensively, at least somewhat around the bucket. He can be that dude. I also think that Bogovac, guys, he has a sweet touch. And I think he's another individual that does have the ability to get up and down the floor repeatedly. The biggest question mark I think you could look at from the Oklahoma State basketball games that we were able to watch somewhat recently was that somebody like a Julius Halfenow, for being a 7-footer, from coming to Georgetown and being an integral piece of that Georgetown ball club, it did kind of feel like he could be an early preseason candidate, like a preseason All Big 12 style of candidacy. So to get Parsa Fallah back, knowing that the big dude that we do have at center, Julius Halfenow, probably does still need a little bit of work and a little bit more time. We don't have to stress while we're waiting on that. We don't have to be solely reliant upon a couple guys that weren't really supposed to play a lot last year, but were forced into a scenario where they had to play quite a bit. They learned from it. They both athletically have done some things in the weight room to cut down on body fat and potentially get in better shape from a conditioning perspective. If that can be visible, it's got to come from Parsa Fallah. Like, it's one thing to put forth effort, right? You're probably going to put forth effort if you're trying to get a starting spot or a 6-man spot. But it's another thing when you know that the heart and soul, the leader, if he's going to be out there, you're going to be pushed. And that may be something that we need. And maybe last year, Parsa was, I don't want to say reluctant to be a huge vocal presence with his teammates and getting on to them and holding them supremely accountable in front of TVs at least. But if he's back in action, or will be for this season, the development should be significantly better. The potential concerns should go down a decent amount. So instead of having to move a Halfenow or a Bogovac, you could just put Parsa in the ballgame. And you have that security, that understanding that part of the field's probably getting locked down. Speaking of getting locked down, Coach Eric Morris has channeled his inner Mike Gundy to go armadillo hunting. And to be realistic with you, yes, that thumbnail is fun. That's pretty cool. That's part of it. The second part is, it's kind of cool. We had our rattlesnake hunting Mike Gundy, and some of those unique attributes that he brought to the table did get him more national recognition, which ultimately means Oklahoma State was getting more brand recognition. This could be another one of those comparable scenarios, because whenever you're going armadillo hunting and you're replacing the guy that would go rattlesnake hunting, the nostalgic side of that is pretty cool. Right? As a fan base, we can appreciate that Mike Gundy had some of the best one-liners in the world. Did he say a couple things here and there that probably weren't the best from a fan base to hear? Yeah, but he also did a lot of amazing things that fit right in line with what it should be to be part of the Stillwater, Oklahoma community. Like, you should be wanting to go hunting and fishing and four-wheeling and mudding. It should be part of it. It could be part of one of the reasons a lot of individuals do pick Oklahoma State, because a lot of that stuff is very, very, very possible. But what I found even more interesting about this ordeal, because I was not going to talk about this really, like, it wasn't planned to be part of a segment for the day in any capacity really, until I saw what ESPN put out. The push notification, tweet, text, I don't know exactly what you'd call it. But talk about wild times. Talk about a wild scenario in general. This is pretty cool, I think. I'm a fan of this. You get to see a lighthearted moment from Eric Morris. You do get to draw these parallels between things that Mike Gundy was doing, that he's now doing. I'm not going to sit here and say that, all publicity or bad publicity is good publicity, whatever. I know I just absolutely destroyed that. Let me know down in the comment section how bad I messed that up and how well you can help me fix it. But what did inspire me to kind of tip that scale of saying, okay, actually, I probably should, was ESPN. Like, it feels like they were trying, maybe not, maybe it was a GA or an assistant or secretary or something to that effect that may have put this tweet out, okay? But not a ton of context. ESPN puts out like an emergency push notification. New Oklahoma State football coach Eric Morris shoots and kills an armadillo in his yard. Now, in and of itself, probably not all that bad. Probably not intended to sound bad. But this is one of those things, like when you get those alerts on your phone and you're driving down the road and you kind of glance at it. I mean, you ain't going to stare at it because you're driving, but you glance at it and you do know that it's probably time to pull over pretty darn quick. Yeah, that's one of these. It's one of these instances. It's one of these moments. But the publicity part of this could be pretty cool. I mean, you're seeing places have fun with it. The dead armadillo. And this is the stuff that we need. I think this is the kind of thing that would allow teams to grow together. But let me know in the comment section, what did you think about that notification put out by ESPN? Because without a lot of context, it sounds bad. New Oklahoma State football coach Eric Morris shoots and kills armadillo in his yard. Like, they didn't go on to say, by the way, this is the middle of Stillwater, Oklahoma. By the way, there's a lot of things that you do need to remove from your land or your yard or your garden, or they are going to do a significant amount of damage. He's fitting right in, man. You love to see it. Of course, I mean, this is very comfortable to Eric Morris being a small town West Texas guy. But I kind of like it. I'm kind of a fan. I don't know if ESPN was trying to do a hit piece thing here, but that's certainly why I did decide to throw this into the show. It was because I wanted y'all's perspectives and opinions. Are you viewing it as ESPN was trying to purposely stir the pot, like leave out part of verbiage to make a very, very, very compelling conversation? And we get to be part of this, conversation. So I think it's awesome. I love that there is a little bit of a connection throwback now to Mike Gundy. And the camaraderie, the cohesion, the team bonding. It's a lot easier to do all of that when you have faith that your coach he's a coach. You're going to respect the crap out of him. But he might just be one of the good old boys that'll go hunting whenever, that will go take care of things in the backyard that are ruining their garden. I mean, it ain't for everybody, but living in the middle of Stillwater, Oklahoma is not exactly for everybody. We've heard it all before in recruiting. Getting people to Stillwater, Oklahoma, it's not the easiest thing in the world, so on and so forth. You get guys like Eric Morris that are just cut from the right cloth to be a part of this, which there are tons of these guys around. If you can fill your roster with those dudes, probably going to have success, and it's probably going to be pretty darn fun. So let me go down in the comment section. What are your thoughts? And do you think that this armadillo is going to end up on Eric Morris's wall or in an office? It needs to happen. It's fun seeing the lighter side of your head ball coach. Anywho, that's all we're going to have for this one. Right here. As always, I love you. God bless. Go Pokes. Thank you for tuning in to make this your first listen here in Locked On Oklahoma State. You could be anywhere. So happy you choose to be here. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you liked it. Dislike if you didn't. That's okay too. More importantly, share, comment, and subscribe. My podcast with people out there. You're everything that makes this work. I appreciate what you do. So go do what you do. Hammer away on those stars and leave some more reviews. Alrighty, y'all. Later, my taters.